शोकविनाशकारणं नमामि विघ्नेश्वरपादपङ्कजम् अखण्डमङ्गलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानानन्दशलाखया चक्षुषुं मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। चिन्मयं व्यापि यत्सर्वं त्रैलोक्यं सचराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव बन्धुः सचता त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव सर्वं मम देव त्वमेव सर्वं गुरुदेव देव। ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरि ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। So if my memory is correct, we finished 17? It's
18.
Or 16?
We finished 18 now.
We finished 18.
Harish.
Okay. All right. So then let's say 16, 17 and 18.
Yeah. Okay. Hari Om, everyone. 16th verse. न प्रकाशेऽहमित्युक्तिः
न प्रकाशेऽहमित्युक्तिः
यत्प्रकाशैकबन्धना
यत्प्रकाशैकबन्धना
स्वप्रकाशं तमात्मानं
स्वप्रकाशमात्मानम्
अप्रकाशः कथं स्पृशेत्
अप्रकाशः कथं स्पृशेत्
तथाप्याभाति कोऽप्येष
तथाप्याभाति कोऽप्येष
विचाराभावजीवनः
विचाराभावजीवनः
अवश्यायश्चिदाकाशे
अवश्याकाशे
विचारार्कोदयावधिः
विचारार्कोदयावधिः
आत्मा ज्ञानं महानिद्रा
आत्मज्ञानमहानिद्रा
जृम्भितेऽस्मिन् जगन्मये
जुम्भितेऽस्मिन् जगन्मये
दीर्घस्वप्ने स्फुरन्त्येते
दीर्घस्वप्ने
स्वर्गमोक्षादिविभ्रमाः
स्वर्गमोक्षादिविभ्रमाः।
Did we read it or we just talked about it? I don't know. But anyway, whichever way it is, we'll move forward.
We read it. Yeah.
Oh, we finished it fully. Okay. All right. So now he's talking about ignorance and consciousness. And I think the topic in 16 what he talked about was that the ignorance does not touch the consciousness. The ignorance is a projection or a superimposition on the consciousness. The consciousness does not go through enlightenment. The conscious has no effect whatsoever. It is the self, or it is the ahankara, it is my view of the self that is ignorant in the beginning, and through the knowledge gains the realization or gains moksha. So the change that happens to the false I or the ahankara or the ego that we talk to. The consciousness is absolutely not affected in this whole process. For example, The sun shining has so many effects take place on the earth. People are doing all kinds of activities on the earth, but the sun is not affected by anything. The sun just projects the light. So the ignorance and the 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 whole question of knowledge is not something that actually happens to consciousness. There is another concept here. I don't know whether I stressed it last time. Ignorance, we do not know when the beginning is, because we are all born into this ignorance, but it does have an end, because when you get the knowledge, ignorance disappears and you get moksha, or you get deliverance, or you get enlightenment. So the ignorance cannot be real in the Vedantic sense. Remember, when we talk about Satyam, we talk about Satyam that remains in the past, it's in today, and it will be in there in the future. We can see in our own life, if you get a knowledge of something, ignorance of that piece of knowledge disappears. Like, for example, I didn't know Sanskrit. So you studied Sanskrit, then the ignorance of Sanskrit disappeared. So ignorance was there in the beginning, and with the right knowledge, the ignorance disappeared. How can that be Satyam? Because it doesn't exist throughout the entire space. It keeps on changing. The other thing that we need to focus on, and I don't think I spent a lot of time on it, this is what I wanted to understand. There are different levels of reality. The reality of the ignorance is not in the consciousness. The consciousness is real. As we say, the pratibhasik, that is the supreme reality. The ignorance is a transactional reality. We experience that, but on examination or upon the issue of knowledge, that ignorance disappears. So ignorance is what we call vyavaharik reality, or the transactional reality. It is like the roles that you play in different in your life. They're all transactional reality. They're not real in the Vedantic sense, that they don't remain the same throughout all periods of time. They change. And we call that, and I think we had given this word before, I hope people remember, we call that mithya. That is, it is experienced, but it is not real. It is different than asat. Asat is something that never existed. Like, for example, the horns on my head. It never existed. But there is another level of reality that we all experience in our life, which is the transactional reality. As long as we experience it, it's real. But on vichara, when you do it, we realize that it is not real. So this is a very important concept. I should have focused on it. I did not. You need things at the same level of reality to make a difference. And I think we talked about it in conjunction with another shloka. If you are thirsty in your dream, having water in the waking life will not help you in any way, because waking is a different reality than dream. So you will still be thirsty, and you wake up thirsty, and then you have to wake up, and that thirst might not even need water, but it is just a question that in that dream you were thirsty. Or, for example, I think I've told you this example before, this whole starting of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, right? King Janaka. In dream, he was a pauper. He was begging for food all over his city. And he woke up saying that I'm hungry. And then he realized that is just a dream. At that particular point of time, that hunger that he felt in his dream cannot be quenched by food in the Jagrat Avastha, because that's a different form of reality. So to really make an impact, you need to have the effect also at the same level of reality. So, for example, you win a lottery in your dream, you cannot go to the lottery officer and say, I won this lottery, give me money. No, you have to win the lottery in the waking state to get the money. The reality of the waking state and the dream state are different. So similarly, this is the reason I'm dwelling this, and this is a very profound statement, and it might confuse you. And this is another very important concept in Upanishad. to get rid of the experiential ignorance. Please pay attention to each of the words. To get rid of the ignorance that we experience, or what we call transactional reality, the knowledge also has to be in the transactional reality. You cannot get a knowledge in a different reality and it can have an impact. That's why I gave you all those examples in dream and all that. So you can actually argue that the words in Vedanta are not real in the Vedantic sense. It might confuse a lot of people because you think that it is sacrosanct. How can Vedas not be real? The meaning conveyed by the Vedas, the Vidya conveyed in the Vedas is real. But the words in the Vedas are not real. They're just transactional. You need to understand that very carefully because if ignorance is not real, you cannot have a reality which is not in the same level or the same plane of reality, because we said there are three levels of reality. One is the paramarthic, or what we call the spiritual reality. The vyavaharic reality, that's what we all deal with. That's our name and form or our roles that we play. That we call the transactional reality. And the third one is called the pratibhasic reality, which is the dream reality. That is, it is there as long as you believe in, as long as you experience it. The minute that reality, the experience is over, that reality ends. So to a certain extent, this ignorance, which is mithya, as long as you experience it, it's real. But the minute you are able to get knowledge to get rid of that ignorance disappears. The ignorance is no longer real. So in one of the Upanishad, Mundaka Upanishad, actually, even the Vedas are classified as apara vidya. See, there are two kinds of knowledge in this world. There's one knowledge called Brahma Vidya, that is the knowledge of who you are, knowing which you know everything in the world. In fact, the question in the Mundaka Upanishad is, what is it if I know, I'll know everything in the world? That's what the teacher goes and asks the Acharya. And in the Acharya, Acharya says everything except the Brahma Vidya is not real. So even if you learn the Vedas and recite it without understanding the meaning, it won't make any difference to you. It is apara vidya. It is not going to get you to spiritual salvation that we want. You need to get to what we call the tatparyam, or what is expected, what is told in the Vedas, the meaning of the Vedas. Just by memorizing and reciting, thousands of people have memorized it. Thousands of people have actually given greater commentaries of the Gita or Upanishad. But if they don't understand the knowledge that is in the Brahma Vidya, or knowledge in the Upanishad, or knowledge in the Gita, there is no salvation. And which is what I wanted to highlight, is that the Vedas itself, the words in the Vedas are technically not real, but the meaning of those words in the Vedas convey the Brahma Vidya. They point you to the Brahma Vidya, and that Brahma Vidya is real because that gives you salvation. So in order for the ignorance to go away, which is in what we call the pratibhasic reality or mithya reality, the antidote to that disease or to that issue also has to be in the same form of reality. The real issue here, you have to really think through who is getting the enlightenment. The consciousness is not getting anything. The consciousness is not affected by anything at all. It is just the light that is actually reflecting in your mind, and that's how you get the knowledge. It is the mind that goes through all these various avasthas, and mind is not real. Mind is mithya, right? So this whole thing about ignorance and moksha, it's with the false I. It's with the ahankara. It's not with the consciousness. And I think that's something that we didn't discuss last time, but as I was looking at this thing, I wanted to highlight. Let me stop there because it can be quite confusing. It can kind of knock you off your kind of base that you might have of knowledge. But I just want to make sure you understand that the words are mithya, but the meaning behind the word. That's why we say, even in Upanishad classes, focus on understanding what the words is conveying. Don't focus on just memorizing and repeating it. That doesn't give you anything. That gives you probably a good source of memory and helps you kind of gain knowledge of the Gita. But if you don't understand what each word is saying, Gita will not get you salvation. So memorizing those verses and reciting is a good thing. I'm not denying it, but that's not what Vedanta is all about. Vedanta is understanding those verses and try to really understand what they're trying to say. The knowledge that is conveyed by those words are very, very important. Then, then we talked about this whole issue of Maya, how as long as you don't do any vichara, this world appears to be real. You take the world to be, or the body, mind, intellect to be the false I, and you live in that false world overall. The minute you do the vichara, just like when the sun shines on the fog that is there in the morning, the fog disappears and the sunlight comes in. Another critical thing to examine there is, just like the fog does not affect the sun in any way. The sun doesn't change. The sun doesn't lose its shine. The fog has no effect on the sun. Similarly, my ignorance has no effect on the consciousness. The consciousness is not affected by my ignorance. The consciousness is not the one that is going through the cycle of ignorance and knowledge as we move forward. And then the last verse, we talked about the Atmananda, verse number 18. Here he's saying, and this is something that we talked about, he's saying that the waking state is also a long dream. Right now, you're in the waking state. Everything that you look at it appears to be real. Because technically speaking, the objects in the waking state in the Jagat keep on changing. And therefore, they're not Satyam. They are Mithya because they appear to be real, but they're technically not real. Once you get this knowledge, the Swapna Jagrat Avastha, right now that you are in this long Nidra that you're in, he's saying you're in the long sleep, because dream is very short, normally 5 minutes or something. Here he's talking about our entire life. In fact, I'm sure some of you might have read Swami Vivekananda's book. He says, arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached. When he says arise, he says arise from the sleep of ignorance that you live in this waking state. The waking state, if you do not know what the real I you are, it is just like a sleep. You are essentially sleepwalking in your waking state. And all these various avasthas that you go through are essentially in this long sleep that you go through. You need to wake up from that. And once you wake up from the waking state, you will realize these things are also as unreal as the dream that you were in your dream state. So these are all very, very powerful verses, making you focus on what is it that we are trying to achieve and how do we achieve. One of the main problems that we have is that our indriyas are not able to make a difference. They just look at the name and form. They're not able to tell you the underlying substance of what made that entity. Like, for example, you go to a museum or you see me, you see my body, mind, the name and the form, and you associate me with Hari. But you do not see the adhishtanam or the inner me, the real I, which is the consciousness. Similarly, like, for example, when you go to a museum, you might see a beautiful statue, but you will never pay attention on the material that made the statue. You are enamored by the name and the form of the statue. You absolutely pay no attention whether it's made up of wood or bronze or whatever. That's because our sense organs can identify only the name and form. They do not know the adhishtanam or the real entity. For example, in the clay pot scenario, the name of the pot, the shape of the pot and the name of the pot is known to you by your sense organs, but the sense organs cannot detect if the pot is clay unless you go and feel it or you hit it, or the pot is made up of bronze. So the adhishtanam that makes up this whole world, unfortunately, can be obtained only through knowledge, because the sense organs are not qualified for that. And remember, we have talked about multiple times that this adhishtanam or the satyam that we are cannot be reached by any of the sense organs, because the words cannot go there. You can't smell it, you can't hear it, you can't see it. You can experience it, but the sense organs will not help you go there. So let me stop there. I think I've thrown a lot of things at you. Let me see if you have any questions before we move forward. But these were some of the, we talked about all those main issues last time in the class, but there are some underlying concepts in each one of these things that need to be highlighted, and you people need to appreciate that moving forward.
Hariji, quick question.
Yeah.
So you spoke about the reality is limited or not confined, but it applies to the particular state. So there are three states, Jagrata Avastha and those three states. How would we explain what Ramanuja experienced, where he said that Devi gave him all of those the solutions to those math problems, because he was not trained, but he still was able to solve the most complex equations, and he
Very, very
claimed that.
simple, extremely simple. It is an intuition that comes from within. You can call it Devi, you can call it anything from, it is something that he didn't do anything, it just came from within. That within is Chaitanya. So it's a work of God. You are just an instrument that's carrying the work of God. How did Shankaracharya write so many bhashyams at the age of 32? It was, he had already achieved he had achieved enlightenment, and he had become part of Brahman, right? Once you get the enlightenment, you become part of Brahman or God, and then God uses you to carry out his wishes. Similarly, you can call it Devi, you can call anything you want, but essentially what Ramanujam is saying is that I didn't physically do anything, it just came to me. Even in your life, there are situations when ideas just pop up. You might not have really thought through it. Suddenly some kind of thought comes in and it solves the problem that you're facing. That's what intuition is. And that is essentially the word of God, work of God, because you at that particular point of time you have no ego. You really know that you're not doing it. It is just being done through you by that supreme power, the supreme entity that is there. You can call it Devi, you can call it Shiva, you can call whatever you want. But that's a prime example of what we are trying to tell you here, is that we are all instruments of God, and God uses us to carry out his wishes. And if you go with that Sharanagati in mind, you will not have a lot of the issues that you face in this world.
Yeah, because I remember reading and him stating that it was delivered to him in his dreams, where Devi came and knew. But okay, if that transforms into intuition.
It's intuition. Where it was, when it was delivered, I can't really pinpoint. But I know so many people. In fact, one of my close relatives, or my grandfather's cousin, was, some of you might know, I don't know if you know something called Tirupugar, which is actually the composition written by Arunagirinadar in the 1600 actually, or 1400s. It's on Lord Muruga. And my grandfather used to teach that. In fact, now his ragams have become the standard. And there's a huge group called Tirupugar and Burgal which actually follows it. I know that for a fact because my mother learned from him. Till the day before his class, he would not know which ragam he's going to sing the Tirupugar. If some of you have seen the Tirupugar, it's a very complex chandas, meter. And it's very tongue-twisting Tamil words. It's not easy. Even today, when I read it, I can't really understand. But when you sing that thing in the ragam that he chose, it makes tremendous effect to the listener and to the person who's saying it. And that is a prime example that this is not his work. It is God's work done through you. And I think if you go through this process in every step of the way, that is what the concept of Sharanagati or Ishwarana Arpanama Prasada Buddhi, whether you achieve great heights or you go through a depression, you are able to recover. Because if you achieve something great, you just say, God chose me for this great opportunity. You don't feel proud. And if it doesn't go according to your plan, you just say, God chose that particular decision or that particular result for me. And who knows better than God? Why should I be depressed? That's what I was destined to do. And it kind of gives you that samatva, which is what is preached in Gita, right? Don't go ups and downs in your mind. So Ramanujam is a prime example of that.
So you have to really work to be chosen to be given the deliverance.
You have to be, yeah. You basically need to have the sixfold quality, the sadhana chatushtaya. You should be at the ultimate level. And first of all, you need to do is you need to give up the ego, right? The fact that he was able to say that Devi did the job, 99.9% of the human beings will not say that. They'll say, I did it. They will not go say that they will not give the credit to such a remarkable piece of mathematics to some other person that's not there. Because most of us are interested in the transactional world. We want name and fame. We will not say, oh, I did. You even if somebody else does it, there's so many times in office you do that. Somebody else will do the work, the manager will take the credit and walk away. That's the way we are. It takes a remarkable person to say, even though he has done the work, it was not him who did it. Therein lies his greatness.
Thank you, Hariji.
Anything else? Okay. All right, let's read verse number 19.
Jada jada vibhagoyam
Jada
जडाजडविभागोऽयम्
ajade mayi kalpitah
Ajade
अजडे
मयि
मयि
कल्पितः
कल्पितः
vitti bhage same chitre
वित्तिभागे समे चित्रे
चराचर विभागवत्
चराचरविभागवत्
This is exactly I was just explaining to you. What he's saying here is that whether an entity is sentient or not sentient, whether an entity has the concept of life or does not, it is the sense organs cannot reflect that. The sense organs will just give you the data to the mind. It is the consciousness that helps you differentiate whether something is sentient or non-sentient. Just like in a picture, whether something in the picture is moving or something in the picture is steady, it's just a projection of what is happening. So he's trying to distinguish between the sentiency and non-sentiency, that only the sense organs do not have the capability. It's the consciousness that helps you differentiate. Like you look at a chair and you look at a guy sitting next to the chair without moving, you cannot make out a difference. Only when the consciousness, you interact with the person, ask the person something, then you get an idea whether that person is alive or dead, or you feel the pulse or something of that kind. How does that information come to you? It does not come from your eyes. It comes from the consciousness interacting with the data that's in the mind. So let's read the description and see if you have any more questions. But the question is exactly what I told you before. The concept of sentiency is reflected in the consciousness, not by looking at the entity that's happening. So maybe whom do I pick? Let's pick Jyotiji. Maybe you can read the verse.
You want me the meanings also or just the...
You start from the beginning. Is everything superimposed? Before the verse, I think the concept is given there, and then go from there.
This division as the inert things and the sentient
No, before
being.
that, there's a paragraph on top. Before the Sanskrit portion, do you have that?
If everything is superimposed.
Yeah, exactly. Start from there.
If everything is superimposed on the non-dual Brahman, then why is there the division within the superimposition? As the experiencer and the experienced, that is, as the sentient and the insentient. This doubt is cleared in the following verse. This division as the inert things, worlds, and the sentient beings, jivas, is imagined in me, the pure consciousness, just like the moving and the stationary things in a painting upon a plain white wall. In the given painting itself, we see the division of the movable and the immovable objects like the hills, firm in their majestic girth, the river, which appears to be flowing, the swaying trees, the birds flying in the air, a man watching the sunrise. All these colorful three-dimensional scenery is superimposed on one white two-dimensional white two-dimensional stationary wall or a canvas. In the same
on one white two-dimensional board. That's what he means. on one white two-dimensional stationery or canvas. The canvas is white canvas, but two-dimensional.
On one white two-dimensional stationary wall or a canvas. In the same way, in one pure consciousness, there appears a division of the sentient and the insentient. This division is also a superimposition. Now, one more doubt pops up. Atman is said to be the witness of the three states of experiences, the mind, etc. Hence, there is a division of the witness and the witnessed. So, how can Atman, I, be the non-dual and the immutable Brahman? Certainly, I am the immutable Brahman because, and then the 20th verse.
That is the next verse, actually.
Yeah.
Any questions? Anything that is confusing? Okay, might not confuse all of you. I think everybody's so quiet. Okay, maybe let's go to the next verse, and I'm sure we'll get questions as we move forward.
चैत्योपरागरूपा मे
परागरूपा मे
साक्षितापि न तात्विकी
साक्षितापि न तात्विकी
उपलक्षणमेवेयम्
उपलक्षणमेयम्
निस्तरङ्गचिदं बुधेः
निस्तरङ्गचिदं बुधेः.
Maybe Vijayji, you can read the verse and we'll discuss it once you're done.
Chaitya Uparagarupa is relative to the association with things that rise in the mind and may of mind, Sakshitapi, even the witnesshood, Natatavaki, not absolute, Upalakshanaveva, Tatvaki, sorry, yeah, not absolute, Upalakshanameva, only an assumption, Iyam, this witnesshood, Nistaranga Chittam Chidam Buddhe, of the waveless ocean of consciousness. Even my witnesshood is not absolute, but is assumed with reference to the thoughts arising in the mind. This witnesshood is only an assumption in the waveless ocean of consciousness that I am. Various thoughts, like I am seeing, doership, I am happy, enjoyership, and so on, constantly rise in the mind. I, the consciousness, is the illuminator of all these thoughts. Only with reference to these thoughts, the self is said to be the witness. But the status of being a witness of thoughts is not absolute. In a courtroom, the witness is considered objective when he is not related to the accused, and his testimony is considered valid when he gives his first-hand account as he has witnessed it. Similarly, the self merely illumines the thoughts as they appear and is not really related to them. The term witness is used to indicate the truth is the unchanging substratum of the thoughts, of all thoughts, and is free from all thought modifications. It is an ocean of consciousness without any wave of thoughts. Truth/Brahman cannot be defined. It can only be indicated. It is indicated as the cause of the world, but really, it is not so. Since at present our attention is on the world, it is said that the truth/Brahman is its cause. When we withdraw our attention from the world and focus it on the truth/Brahman, then we realize that it is not the cause and there is no world in it. Similarly, Atman is indicated as the witness. When we shift our attention from the thoughts to the witness of the thoughts, then we realize that in the self that there are no thoughts at all. Hence, witnesshood of the self is only relative and not absolute, and therefore the self is non-dual. Wow.
Okay. It's a very difficult concept. I'll try my best to explain it. Please ask questions if I don't make any sense. The self is a witness as long as there are thoughts in the mind. When you're in deep sleep, there are no thoughts. The self is no longer the witness, right? So what we need to realize is that the way we have been conditioned is the thoughts, the collection of thought or a flow of thoughts is what we call a mind. So we think that when these thoughts are happening in the mind and we react to the thoughts, when we react to the mind that is there, or we act based on what the mind is doing, that we are being very intelligent and we are thinking through what we are doing. But in effect, the thoughts in the mind should be actually controlled by us, and we are away from the thought. So the quality of the thought, if we improve, we will actually get closer and closer to the supreme reality. We can see that, and I've told you this multiple times, that when you feel sad, if you analyze why are you sad, there is one thought that has taken over your entire personality at that particular point of time. If you break that hold of the thought, if you go ahead and do something different, or go outside, go do mantra, go to puja, or go even a workout, and that thought goes away, then when you come back, you don't feel as sad. You're not depressed anymore. At least that impact of that thought is gone away. One of the fundamental things that we need to learn is that we are not the thoughts that go in the mind. The thoughts, we act on those thoughts thinking that they are legitimate or whatever. We are actually the consciousness that makes us look at the thoughts, really enjoy the thoughts, and we get you the doership and the enjoyship of the thought. So the consciousness, not every time is a witness. It's a witness in the waking state and the dream state. But in the deep sleep state, it also, you can call it a witness, but it's a witness of absence of any thought. So what he's trying to say is that the thought is in the mind. It is not part of the consciousness. And if that thought in the mind, and I've told this multiple times, that vritti in the mind is not reflected by consciousness, that thought doesn't get converted into action or get converted into knowledge if it is a kind of an object-oriented thought. Only when consciousness acts on the thoughts, you get knowledge, and you get this ahankara or I thought coming in, that I know this particular entity going forward. So the consciousness is witness in some cases in two of the avatars, and it is a witness of absence of thought. So the witness of thought in two cases, and then witness of no thoughts in the other cases. So that's kind of what he's trying to say here, that the thoughts are property of the mind, and this whole concept of I am doing this, I am enjoying it, it's also a thought. It's a thought of the ahankara. It is nothing to do with consciousness. Consciousness is just projecting the light and lighting up the thought for you.
Hariji, I have a question here.
Go ahead.
So, what is it? I understood all that you said. And I have no question about what you said. I get the witnessing the thought, and then when deep sleep, we're not, there are no thoughts. Oh, I got that. But over here it says, the truth Brahman is indicated as the cause of the world, but really it is not so, since at present our attention is on the world and it is said that truth Brahman is its cause. When we withdraw our attention from the world and focus it on the truth, then we realize that it is not the cause and there is no world in it. What exactly does that mean? I didn't get that particularly.
What is the world that we create is based on the thoughts that we have in our mind, right? Our thoughts lead to the action, and the action leads to the result, and those results create the world in our mind. In fact, I've said,
oh, so he's thinking about the world that we perceive.
Correct, that's our world that we create.
Our world that we perceive. Okay.
Yeah, it is created based on the thoughts that we have.
Based on, correct. Okay.
Brahman is not really involved in it.
Okay.
Brahman just lights it up, but the actual quality of because different people have different
No, I got it.
depending on the experiences that you have.
Okay. It's our perception of the world. That's
Correct.
what
it's our world, right? The way we look at it's my world and your world.
It's
your
my
world,
world. Yes. Okay. I got it.
Experiences, based on the thoughts that I have in the mind. Remember when we were young, they used to have these big posters. one of the posters that always caught my attention is attitude creates altitude. Attitude in your mind creates the level of achievement that you will have in
Right.
life. So the quality of the thoughts create the world that you live in. That's why we constantly say in Indian culture, we have these three monkeys, right? Don't hear evil, don't see evil, don't speak evil. Because you want to
100%.
make sure you have the right kind of thoughts so that you create the right kind of world for you, which can give you all the happiness and joy that you want.
Correct. And I think in this world of social media and all the stuff that is happening, that is just so true. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah, I think in a way, sometimes I feel that we were a little lucky we didn't have so many distractions.
Yes. Oh,
Because
thank God.
youngsters now have a tremendous amount of distraction and they're not mature enough to understand that. And yeah, hopefully there'll be some solution to it. I think that's a problem that we are all facing. We're creating all this divisiveness in this society and everything else is all because of the media.
Yeah. Thank you.
So,
Anything
Hariji,
else?
talking about the
Question?
virtual
Yeah.
world, right? The world we create on social media. Again, we all have different world because our likes, dislikes, what you thumbs up, what you thumbs down, like it's totally different for each one of us. What I see versus what you see on your same feed will be completely different. So it's I'm interacting, right, with that thing and the world is getting created. Same way, I'm saying it's more obvious with the virtual world, like in the, let's say, Facebook, right?
The quality of
Or
the
Truth
thoughts
Social, if
define your
that's your
world.
thing. Yeah.
Very true, because what is the social media? It'll reinforce what you've seen. It'll
Yeah.
keep you engaged with the media going forward. So if
And
you have
same way
good
the
thoughts,
thought,
you
yeah.
have good world in front of you.
I'm saying same way if it's not social media, if it's real life also, what I see is happening to me or others, right? It's again my interaction, what my vrittis and how I am wired, right? In a way. So that's how the next thing happens, how I'm wired. So the more I can take myself away from that wiring, right? It's simpler.
It's said another way. If you're unsatisfied with the world, you need to change your thoughts. The quality of the thoughts determine the world that you experience and the world that you live in. And if you really examine it and you change the quality of your thoughts, the world around you will change also. So at the end of the day, it kind of goes back to the karma theory saying that the world that you live in is determined by your own karmas, by your own thoughts, your own vasanas, that determine the world that you inherit and that determine the world that you live in. And the social media, as because you were saying, just kind of shows that example for us to visualize and experience.
But Hariji,
Yeah.
isn't it true that, it's a time lag event, right? I mean, so you created a world in the past, which is now your life today, and then so there's an obfuscation factor, which is not there in social media, right? You're creating it live and you're experiencing it live, but it's your past karmas that dictate what you're experiencing now.
It need not be past karmas in the prior life. It's the karmas in this life itself can dictate the quality of your life. For example, if you fritter away your college days and do not do your studying properly and you fail your exams, your quality of the world once you come out of it will be far different than somebody who has got a great degree and got a great job as part of that process. So, in fact, this goes to the purushartha that we discuss quite aggressively in Vedanta. Like there, a lot of people say, "Oh, everything is determined in your kulam or in your jadagam or whatever that is." The jadagam just gives you the basic tools, but what you do with the tools is completely dependent on you. That you must have control. Like for example, I don't know how many of you play bridge or a set of cards. The set of cards dealt to you is based on the vasanas, based on what you've done in the past. But what you do with the cards is based on purushartha. You have the power to change those cards. There are a lot of times when you play bridge, you get really horrible cards, but you can still win if you play your hands very well. So there is always an element of purushartha Vedanta believes that. Unfortunately, our culture, especially in India, has become very fatalistic. That is not what Vedanta is saying. What Vedanta is saying is that you have the power to control your destiny. What you do today will affect you tomorrow, will affect you in the next year. It is not like what happens in the past will affect. What you do when you're young will affect what you're in the future. If you're working and you don't save up money, your retirement will be in deep trouble. So you have power to change your future every day of the world. But for that, you first need to change your thoughts. You need to feel positive that I can change my world going forward. Correspondingly, the right kind of thoughts will come in and you take the right actions going forward.
And, take that to one extreme end where, like a Ramana Maharshi or these guys don't experience thoughts in the same way you and I do. Is that fair to say? Because
They are not experiencing thoughts because their mind is focused inwards.
Mhm.
Because, in fact, you can see that even people who are very advanced and learned, they are not blabbering away, they're not talking because they're just reveling in the Brahman that you are in. That gives you the most amount of happiness that you can get. So when you're reveling in your true self, you don't need anything else in the world to gain enjoyment, which is what you will realize as you learn more and more about Vedanta, is that happiness is within you. You don't need any objects, you don't need any relatives, you don't need any wealth to get happiness. If you are contented with yourself, you get that. That is what moksha is. Moksha is contentment. Moksha is tripti with yourself. You have no discontentment. You really don't have any desires. Why do you think you have desires? Because you feel that if you get that desire, you will become happy. But if you are already happy and you don't have any desires, that's what moksha is all about. You're contented with the world, you're contented with what you have.
see, I had a slightly different take on that, and I've been struggling with this a lot. So, I'm just going to ask the question, but, this lack of happiness, it's a contentment, and there's a difference between contentment and happiness, in my humble opinion, where I am today, right? I mean, so the reason to seek happiness in the traditional sense of the word is because, stupidly, the low and the high, actually, the high feels better, than the sense of just, at least today, right? Just a sense of contentment, which
What is
is the
happiness?
lack
Define
of.
happiness to me.
that,
That is the
that
problem.
is,
It is an English word. We seek ananda. There is no English word for ananda. Happiness is the transactional pleasure that you get when something is fulfilled based on your interest. But whatever entity that causes happiness is not permanent in nature. So whenever
100%.
that entity changes, your happiness changes along with it. What contentment is, or what ananda is, or anantam is knowing Brahman, which is permanent and which is there through all times. So if you focus, just logically you think, we go after all objects that have a birth and a death. If every object has a birth and a death, how can that give me permanent happiness? So the word happiness is where I'm going with it. It's not happiness, it's bliss. There is no English word. There is no
Yeah.
English word for ananda in Sanskrit. It's the Sanskrit word ananda, which is what I transferred that to contentment. And you can take the English word, but that English word does not tell me what contentment is. Do you know what tripti is? The word tripti in Sanskrit, is there any English word for that? The closest word is contentment.
Satisfaction, yeah, contentment, yeah.
Satisfaction is a loose translation,
Yeah, it's
but
a
it doesn't come to
double-edged sword,
tripti,
yeah.
right? So if we have tripti and we have contentment, we will get bliss. If you really analyze the times that you're unhappy, there is something missing in your life, something that you feel, if I get that, I'll become happier. That lack of that entity, or whether it could be anything, it could be a job promotion, it could be a child's education, it could be anything. And that discontentment, or the thing, unhappiness, or worry, all those things are essentially knowing the fact that you are completely pure and you are the bliss. Nothing else can give you that level of happiness. And I
No, I
think once
agree.
you
Like,
realize that, you will probably make a greater effect to understand what Brahman is.
yeah, no, I mean, it's like Sarva Priyananda was saying, right? I mean, you put pressure on yourself and then release it, and then pressure on yourself. And I think it's a very good analogy to what we describe as happiness.
Correct.
But this is something deeper, very permanent, and
See,
just,
once you get this bliss, as he was describing in that lecture, the things that you're going after to get happiness loses their importance altogether. The level
yeah,
of bliss that you get from knowing Brahman and
just,
experiencing Brahman is far superior to anything that the world can give you. And he had this big equation there in terms of the units of pleasure going forward.
yeah.
And that's exactly what we're after. Vedanta gets you to that bliss. You don't need to go after these smaller pleasures, which will give you happiness or pleasure or whatever you want to call it for a temporary period, but then you get back to being unhappy after a while.
Makes you wonder why if some of these enlightened people would even bother with us mere mortals, I mean, it's like,
No, I think that again is the glory of God. I think God created Adi. If not for Adi Shankaracharya, we would not know Hinduism. Because if you read Vedas, even if you're a Sanskrit scholar, it's very confusing. The context is extremely difficult. Because of his Bhashyam, we are able to actually understand what the Vedas convey. And if you read his Bhashyam, he has taken every word in the Upanishads to be a word of God. He is true to the Upanishad to the letter. And that is the reverence that he had for Upanishads and Vedas. And I think that's what we should have in our life too, is that's why I think I've said multiple times, when I read the Sankara Bhashyam, I just feel blessed that I have an opportunity to learn what he has written. And I think this is what I've been, this has been one of my biggest things in life when I'm in the US, is to expose this generation to such great works, such
yeah,
intellectual works, that you will feel proud that you're part of the. See, I was telling this in our Viveka Upanishad class, Viveka Chudamani class. The Western world thinks only the waking world gives you knowledge. The Western world doesn't even know that there is a dream world and a Sushupti world. We had gone way beyond the waking world into the other three worlds. Sigmund Freud wrote a little bit about psychoanalysis, and he's considered to be a great psychologist. They have no concept that the knowledge can be obtained in multiple levels. There are multiple levels of reality. I think I've told you this before. When we had this function in Mani Mandapam, I got a Sanskrit scholar from University of Princeton to come and talk to us. And she was telling us that not knowing Sanskrit, which is the greatest disservice that Britishers did for us. In fact, they did it purposely to break our. If you read some of the older versions of the East Indian Company books, they said we can take away all their material wealth, but these guys are still very proud. We can't break their back. The only way to break the back is to break their knowledge of their culture. So all of us are brown sahibs. We don't know our mother tongue. We don't know Sanskrit. Each one of those languages has tremendous amount of cultural books. The reason I bring it up is you will find this esoteric. This has become a very important part now in this AI world, right? Is AI conscious or not? This particular word of what is consciousness was discussed in the 10th century BC. There is actually a Sanskrit work that's describing two philosophers. One was in Kashmir, one was in Orissa. That is the level of sophistication our culture was. And that has been absolutely decimated by a bunch of crooks from Britain. I'm sorry, please forgive my language. What they did, they took each of our scriptures and tried to make it Christian oriented. So you read all the English translations or the German translations, they always put the Christianity concept, the Christian was the greatest thing on earth, without realizing this culture was there even before Christ was born. And part of the stuff that has happened in our culture has gone through the Arabs to the Western world. But anyway, I don't want to go there. It's just too depressing. But I'm glad at least you're taking part in it. You're getting drops of our culture. Spend time, try to understand, and more importantly, make your children proud. because that is the most important thing. We all have a little bit of knowledge through osmosis because we grew up in that culture. But in this country, this culture is not exposed. That's why we have Balavihar and Chinmaya Mission to get the children exposed to it. I understand after they go to 12th and they go to college, they might not touch this book again. We see that all the time. But what happens is if you put the foundation of this thing in your children, after they finish the education and work for a few years, get the child and they've finished most of the things, they come back. We have a lot of people in the mission in the 40s and 50s who come back to the mission because they realize the world is not giving what you want. Most of the people in Chinmaya Mission are well accomplished in their fields, but they still feel that discontentment. And then they say, okay, it's time to go and read the Shastras because the Shastras will give me the formula to be ever happy. And in order for you to appreciate that, you first need to have the basics in place, the foundation in place. And that is the reason we worked very hard to get the Chinmaya Mission here, because it's a curriculum that is designed for children from kindergarten through 12th grade, walking through the various scriptures. And we don't dictate it. It's a question of discussion. In fact, if you go to the high school class, I have taught that once a year, you will take the character of Dhritarashtra and you will say, how does Dhritarashtra work in the world, in the Western world? Will he be able to survive? How does Yudhishthira, whatever things he did in Mahabharata, will be accepted in the Western world? So you try to give them those values because those are very important. And I think, again, I'll stop preaching. I think we've gone way beyond my limit. But anyway, let me stop there and see if you have any questions on the shloka.
Thank you.
I don't know about questions, but we are all very grateful that we have you to help
No.
with all
Don't be
this, and
grateful to me.
Balaji Garu to help us with so many other questions as well.
No. It's I'm
You're
humbly
such a
grateful.
blessing.
honored
Thank you.
that I'm able to help you. It's none of
It's
my
like
doing. I
now,
just had the lucky exposure to Chinmaya Mission, and what they taught me is what I'm pushing it. I'm just an advanced student like you. I just spent a little bit more time. That's all.
it's
If I
amazing.
was
This is
enlightened,
not
I
like
would not be here. I'm not enlightened either. So I still
No,
have a long way
even
to
if
go.
you were enlightened, you would be here because you'd be,
Probably
God's
true, but
instrument
what
to
I'm
do
saying
this
is that I
anyway.
have my
So,
own ups and downs. I might look very perfect when I'm describing all this, but you need to talk to my wife to find out the real I.
No,
I
this
won't
is
talk
what
to her,
now
don't worry.
this is what now the 7th year that we are studying under Hariji.
I would think so. It's been a while. Yeah, it's been quite a long time.
7th year.
We have done 3 books or 4 books already.
It's amazing
Amazing.
journey for
We'll
us.
finish this book. We have only 5 more shlokas. We'll definitely finish it. I had to leave for India in middle of August, but I think we'll be done by then. Let me stop there before I don't want to go to the next verse because it's already 8:28. I wasted a lot of your time by getting passionate about something that I am very passionate
Very
about. But
important. Thank you.
I apologize for that. A little bit off topic. Any other questions? We finished verse number 21, right? Or 20. We finished 20. Okay, so we'll start with 21 the next time. We have only 5 more verses. The last 4 or 5 verses are very simple. We shouldn't be very complicated. We should be done in about 2-3 classes. So if you don't have any questions, we'll stop here, and I will look forward to seeing all of you next week. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. I just wanted to highlight one more thing. I'm sure all of you know about the Srivari temple. It's in Somerset. They are getting a speaker from India. He's going to talk about the wisdom of Mahabharata. It's actually on Friday, Saturday, Sunday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. or something. A very nominal fee, $60 per person. They give you dinner also. If you are in that area, I think it's somewhere in Somerset. If you're in that area and you have he's a very good speaker. He's gone all over the country. You can find his YouTube videos. I think the talk is going to be in English. I don't think it'll be in Tamil. But if you have time, please do come. Whether it's Mahabharata, Ramayana, the ultimate values that make all our lives great is the same.
Is it Uwe Venkatesan?
Yeah, that's the
okay.
one. Uwe Venkatesan, yeah.
Oh, he's back here in New Jersey again?
Yeah, he's back here. He's back here for 3 days, yeah. 5th, 6th, and
Wonderful.
7th. So if you can, I
He's
wanted
really
to let you know
awesome.
because all of you are
Yeah.
interested in these topics or like-minded people, if you have the
What days,
inclination,
Hariji?
please do attend. Yeah,
What days?
5th, 6th,
Right.
and next Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Starts at 6.
Yeah, if it's going to be in English, we'll try to get our kids also there
I
because
think it's in
it's
English.
been so well.
I'll see if I can find the flyer. I'll send the flyer and put it.
Yeah,
in.
I'll look for it too because I'm in that group. I'll see if maybe
Yeah,
I
you
missed
should
that
definitely. I'm
flyer
sure
or
you would have
something.
got that email. It was published.
Okay, I'll look
back
for
in
it.
April or something.
And we
Yeah.
can maybe forward it along to everybody.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
look
I
for
will.
it.
I think I have the flyer. I'll see if I have the flyer. I'm able to pass it on. I'll pass it.
Yeah, we'd be very interested.
What's the name, Hariji? Ube?
Venkatesh.
The
UBA?
main topic is
Why?
key lessons from Mahabharata. That's all
You
you
know,
need to know.
it's that's just a honorific. You know, I mean,
Yeah. UV Venkateshan is a Tamil title that
Okay.
you give him. But yeah, I think he's going to speak in English. So if he speaks in Tamil, then you just walk away. I'm sorry, but my guess is that he's going to speak in English because he gives a lot of his videos on YouTube are in English. So he's traveled all over the world. He's gone to Australia, he's gone to England, he's gone to a lot of places. So he gets invited for his knowledge. There are a lot more learned people like that with whom, at least, if you get a glimpse of, just like Sarva Priyananda, he was there for like 2.5 hours, but he gave us so much information that helped us move forward in our journey. I think I always look for these opportunities where I can learn more moving forward. So anyway, with that, I'll stop and I'll try to send the flyer. So thank you very much for coming, and I'll see all of you next week.
Thank you.
Bye now.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tuesday.
So